Hey, David Wood here, and welcome to my extra mile. Comment winner is Dana Dietz. She said, I could listen to you talk about these subjects for hours. Thank you. He was talking about the show I just did, Words Have Power. You got, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. But rewriting your personal dictionary so you can really start to sort of live the life that you want. My show today, what can I say? This lady hails from Zimbabwe. I have a deep affection for Zimbabwe. And she's worked with some of the top minds in the world, Richard Branson, for example. She is just an incredibly cool woman with a beautiful message about discovering and utilizing your voice, the origin of that. And she's going to put you into a practice that is just really, I said afterwards, it was just like having a warm bubble bath. But you've got to try this practice as a daily practice that will really radically change your connection to self, which is beautiful. You're going to see that, there's definitely an alignment about the way that we communicate, how we think about the world, how, philosophies, they're all totally in alignment. So I really want you to sit back and enjoy the incredible Mahima Klinge. I don't know what it is. You meet certain people and you feel like you've known them forever. And I know that sounds like a cliche. It sounds glib sometimes, but I feel that way. And we've just been chatting. We had a few technical difficulties. We were coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And just how great it is and beautiful it is to meet you and feel such an immediate connection. So thank you for being incredible.
Thank you, David. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to speak with your tribe today and or anyone out there who's listening. And I just feel privileged and honored to be here and thrilled to spend this time with you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. I was just telling you that I have a special affinity to Zimbabwe, and I'll tell you a very, very quick story because I think you'll love it. Because I know that a lot of the work you do is about empowering women to find their voice. And I was driving in the rural area of Zimbabwe, heading up to Karibe, and there was a lady hitchhiking on the side of the road, as everyone does, or did back then. And I picked her up, and she was going to Harare, and I took her all the way to her house, and she asked for my address, and she sent me a thank you letter a couple of months
Oh,
later. And finally, we ended up bringing her to Canada and sponsoring her to come to Canada. And in the end, another friend of mine helped her, and she ended up in the US. And now she lives in Chicago. This is 20 years ago. And we reconnected through this show. And her name is Kathy Madziwa. And she is lovely. And it was just amazing, this chance meeting. And I just think about, because Mugabe went through that craziness right after that, if you think of that time. And she's been able to support her family all these years by this, chance meeting on the side of the road with hitchhiking. Is that crazy?
I absolutely love, love, love that story because it just shows the humanity and, the opportunity, the beauty that's all around us. If we can just open our hearts and let those guards down. So thank you. That's such a great story.
Wow.
And how things just can like you never know what's going to happen, right? And we're living in a world now where people there's a lot of fear, so people are closing down, and the work that I do is really about asking people to stay open,
Mm.
keep opening up to humanity, keep opening up to each other, keep opening up to sharing, connecting, being together, as opposed to letting the situation happening that's pulling us apart. So I love that story so much. Please, thank you for sharing it with me.
Yeah,
It's
no, it's
juicy.
amazing. And you're in Switzerland right now, which I love about how the world is, and I think about when I was younger, we'd send a letter and 6 months later we'd receive a reply. And here we are, you're standing there looking unbelievably beautiful. And I just got to say that, and
Thank
radiant.
you.
I mean, beauty for me is so interesting because, yeah, externally you are very beautiful, but the light that emanates from you is what I'm talking about. There's this, you know what I'm talking about. It's a complete
Thank
beauty.
you.
And
Thank you
so,
so much.
yeah, no, sorry interrupting there, but But talk about that with women, how, your passion around women finding their voice. Talk about that thing that happens, the magic that happens when a woman does find her voice, that beauty, that light that starts to come out. What is that all about?
It's I guess it's about lifetimes of suppression and dimming one's light, knowing that you're capable of more, but not daring to go for more, ask for more, and be more. So it's really that in the work that we do, just like supporting women to first of all accept their story is part of their power, right? So everything that's ever happened to us is, as women all together, from all colors, races, creeds, and so forth, right? And just allow ourselves to say, quite frankly, this is our time. Okay, it's my time, honey. Okay, and yeah, it's the rise of women, and I don't know if you know this, but loads of women are opening up their own businesses. They're really stepping forward more and more in the leadership pool, and and just daring to play bigger games. I'm sure you know this, David, because you're a very wise man. So to be a part of that conversation, to be a part of that, like just as I said, helping women strip away their limiting beliefs to realize that they can really do anything they set their heart and mind to. So a lot of people go like, okay, that's a bit too much. Anything that you set your heart and mind to. But I'm saying that not just from personal experience, coming from a place like Zimbabwe, being brought up in an apartheid time, right? And being able to create all of this juiciness and success and, have a, seven-figure business and, have a beautiful marriage that, since 20 years, that's in the prime of its glory. We're getting closer and better. Being able to serve people and wake up every day and have a purpose, but I come from a background of pain, of abuse on a physical, emotional, and mental level, right? So I know what it is to feel like like your voice doesn't matter, to feel like you don't even know how to get all of this juiciness that you feel inside out. So yeah, that I just feel honored that I can be a part of this time where so many amazing things are happening in the world. People look at the world right now and they think it's never been this dark, it's never been this, dismal. But I honestly see a completely different world only because someone helped me change my perspective.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
get here by myself. I got here through other people showing me a different way of thinking, different
sure.
way of operating, and a different way of being in this world.
Yeah,
So,
it's interesting because this is what the show is all about. And, I mean, people, I was interviewed last night and somebody asked me, there's a company I do a tremendous amount of work for. And we're talking about, it's a $8 billion company. So, that's a lot, but 85% of the entire force around the world are women. And and they said, what are you most excited about? And we recently had a woman step in as the CEO of this global company. And that's a very, very large company. And I said, it's the most exciting thing because if we understand even what the Dalai Lama said, I think 20 years ago, he talked about, what's going to free the world is, the advancement of the women. And we're
yes.
seeing it today. I mean, that's what I get so excited about. 85% of I've trained over 1 million people around the world, and 85% of those are women. And, so for me, everything you just said, it resonates so deeply with my core beliefs. And especially you mentioned about this time. And
Mm.
people ask me about it. I said, COVID for me, this time in history has been the most beautiful, exciting, expanding, and it's created a crossroads in humanity where the entire world is experiencing something together, which is really rarely happened. You think when Zimbabwe
True.
was going through the darkest of times, the rest of the world didn't know. I mean, there were parts of Africa that understood that, but the rest of the world was going about driving to work in their cars. They didn't. But this is the first time where the entire world is joined by something, which I think is really exciting, right?
Absolutely. It is super exciting. And, the deepest part of what I teach people in terms of leadership is understanding that you came into this world with nothing. you're going to leave with nothing. That's the truth. You could leave at any moment. You could leave this body any moment. Nobody teaches us that. So no one teaches us how to live. They teach us how to exist, right? And survive. But I'm more interested in knowing how to live and to thrive. So, once we start owning how fragile time is and how precious it is, we can stop wasting time, right? So wasting time, like, the women that I work with, being in relationships that don't really serve you to be the best version of yourself, right? Or being in jobs or situations where you know that you're not operating at your best, it's not your passion, it's not what you really love, but there's so much fear and limitation around creating a life that we're excited about living, because it's been taught that not everyone can have all of this, not everyone can have all of that, right? So those limiting beliefs is really what leadership is all about. Hacking that and allowing yourself to start operating with more presence, that all we have is this moment. How you show up in a room matters. What you say to people matters. What people feel when they're around you matters, right? And we know these things, and yet we don't focus on them.
Yeah. It's interesting because you said something earlier, which I want to come back to, about a person's story, and especially a woman's story. And you talked about your journey. And I think quite often, it's easy to think that the hard things, whether it's abuse, whether it's neglect, or regardless of what it is, whether it's prejudice or whether it's bigotry, regardless of the story, that the strongest people I know have traveled down those darker roads. Mm-hmm. Those people who have traveled. So I think when you talk to women, especially when they've lost their voice because of the story, how incredible is it when they realize that it's because of the story they can find their voice, and actually the story helps them amplify the voice that they have. Whereas instead of the shame of the story and hiding from the story, embracing the story, regardless of how dark it is, and finding that as the platform. And that's what you've done. I can feel it in you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because we're told to have shame around, shame around our truth, basically. And as you said, those darker things that have happened to us, which we've all experienced. And, we're forced to all be experiencing something now on a global scale, which feels a little bit scary. But we've all gone through our personal, shadows and things that we're ashamed of, or, things that we've been told to be ashamed of, when really, for example, I've experienced sexual abuse, right? And so when we start to talk around those topics, there's a lot of shame, that you don't want people to know. You don't want to talk about it, especially if you're a leader, right? That shouldn't be part of what you speak about or what you let people know about, right? And I think this is, transforming in the world, because as we start evolving and growing, what's important is authenticity, right? And authenticity is owning all of that which you are. Now, I'm not saying that we need to all start running around talking about our sexual abuse or about these issues or that issues or whatever, but to be able to not feel like that can't be a part of my story if I'm meant to be a leader or somebody who is trying to inspire and motivate other people. And as you said so beautifully, it's that is going to allow people to be able to be motivated and inspired by you, because it shows your humanity, and to know that you've walked through dark places, came out on the other side, shining. And it's not about happy, being happy all day or something, but that you're thriving and doing well, even though your past may have a little bit of shadow.
The thriving, when you talk about, you and I sound like two halves of the same egg. It's so funny, because if I shut my eyes and your voice was mine, everything you say is so in alignment with, and I don't hear this very often from many people who live in this world like this, because I did grow up in a place where I went through sexual abuse, and I feel like it's part of my gift, because my empathy and compassion and understanding, and also the strength to travel and navigate those roads, allows me, when I'm in front of someone who's traveled through that and living in shame or living in fear or living closed, their hearts are closed down, they, you and I become a model. But what I look to, when you think of one of the most powerful women of the world of color, and of any color, Oprah, when
Oh,
she told the truth about what happened to her, she was she was raped when she was 9. And she went on to transform the world. And it's that sort of that pain that she went through became part of her connection to the rest of the world. And I find that fascinating, how our pain and we're not using it, which some people do. I think it's easy to get caught up in using it as the part of our victim story versus our victor story. So you don't have to mention about abuse ever, unless you're in front of someone where it's relevant. And I think that's the beauty of great leadership, is we share these stories when they're relevant and they can help and serve, but we don't share them in the front as part of, oh, look what happened to me. There's a big difference there, right?
oh, I love that. Absolutely love that. Yes, it is. Did you say Victor and
Versus,
Victor? Yeah, yeah. Victor. I
yeah.
love that. Yes. You know, tell me about the type of women that listen to something like this, because I know that not every woman is tuning in, right?
No, but
So,
the range is pretty strong. I think what it is my particular brand attracts people see a level of truth and transparency and authenticity and fearlessness and fierceness, but compassion, really, really deep understanding of compassion. So I do attract all age groups, but I
oh, wow.
suppose if we looked at the avatar of the group, you're going to say 35 to 65, and women that are feeling that there's a seed that's growing of transformational change, that they know that what they have is not what they want, and where they've been is not where they're going. And there's something about the way that, and I feel that's why the way you speak is kind of how I speak. And it's kind of like pulling or drawing women of all colors, all backgrounds, but also I have a lot of really powerful women who are leaders, who have discovered leadership and living into and creating, massive global teams. Those women are there too, because I think the message isn't about station. It's not about how much money's in the bank. It's just a human message, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the key things for me, I'm trying to kind of remember when I was, let's say 30.
How old
Okay.
are you? I thought you were like 32, but you said you're married for 20 years. So I'm guessing you got married at 8 or 9. No,
Listen, thank you, David. But okay, I'm about to turn 50.
wow,
Okay,
congratulations. You
yeah.
look fantastic.
So in March, I'll be 50. So not about, still a bit of time away. But thank you. So when I was 30, one of my biggest mistakes that I made was not having mentorship. So I want to kind of like highlight some points, right? So that was the biggest mistake I made at 30. Because at 30, you have a lot of energy, you have a lot of drive, right? And if you can have someone just help you to channel all of that by giving you step by step, advice and support. Yeah, somebody who's accomplished something that you want to accomplish, is doing something living a life that you want to live, or whatever it is, and you just allow yourself to invest in support. You can go in 10 years, in 2 years, or even, in 2 or 3 years, where people don't even go in 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something. One message I want for the women that age. If you at any age, this is relevant, quite frankly and honestly. But I'm just talking about myself. At 30, I would have loved someone to tell me that, and I would have saved myself a whole bunch of trouble. Right? At 40 was a wake up call for me. I was like, oh Jesus, I thought, because part of this being in this transformational world, there's a tendency to go with the flow. Yeah, so you start to go with the flow, and and just let things go. And instead of having a clear vision and saying, this is where I am and this is where I want to get to, right? No, I just went with the flow. But unfortunately, the flow took me to a place where I was like, this is not what I expected. This is not even half of what I'm capable of. I mean, I'm, what am I doing? I've wasted a bunch of time. right? So I think having a clear vision, whatever that is, even if it's just, look, I want to write a book, okay? I want to have a community, and have at least 300 people in that community. I would love to have a beautiful, committed relationship. Whatever, anything that can allow your decisions that you're taking to guide you to what you truly want. Right? So I wish someone would have told me that. Have a vision, just have a more clear vision, as opposed to just having some, nice ideas about stuff, but not really walking towards something. So if I want to come to Canada right now, you could say there's a million ways to go to Canada, but if I start walking in the complete opposite direction, right, I'm going to waste a whole bunch of time. Right? So your vision makes sure you don't waste time. You're going there and you go there, right? And why would you want to go there? Because of your values. What makes your heart sing? What makes you alive? What lights you up? And it's not about getting there. It's about having fun while you're going there. That's the real joy of life, right?
And you found this, the vision you have and the boldness to move in that direction, quite often another door will open. In fact, how I ended up, I backpacked for 10 and a half years around the world in 42 countries, and I never planned to come to Canada. I had a vision to travel around the world, and I ended up, became my home. I fell in love with this country and the way of life here and found a way to stay. So I was going to say, yeah, what's beautiful is once you're moving forward, is other, maybe Canada is where you're starting to go to and it's your vision, but it may take a lifetime to get there, or you may never end up there because a new vision opens. I mean, that's the beauty of how when you're living and moving versus living and waiting, which I think a lot of people get caught up in, right? They just waiting for something to happen versus moving towards something now. Because how many times has your vision, I'm even guessing this year, your vision has changed again, but it's in alignment with your values and your purpose. I'm guessing, just looking in your eyes right now, is that you have a deep purpose and everything you do funnels back into the purpose, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's what I teach people. Be clear about your genius, be clear about your mission. But I just want to, track back to this, idea. So you, let's say you have those goals. And you did travel for 10 years around the world in a backpack. So you did live that dream. Then there's the next level. So you're always up leveling. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, I'm not interested in that anymore. Because, I see so many people don't actually get to enjoy rewards of having accomplished what they want because they keep changing tracks. They start up, but it's not like they get to the full fulfillment of that and then something else opens up. Right? So that's how I see it. Like you go down a path and then, you create whatever it is and then something else happens and you move forward. So it's like you keep up leveling. So it's never like that's just one stuck thing. So my issue there was that I wasn't moving towards something. I literally was just floating. Yeah. So decisions weren't being made based on a direction. They were just being made on what was convenient or comfortable at the time. Which, as we know, is not going to get you to the real juicy part in life, right? Yeah. Being comfortable is the opposite of getting, having fun in life. All of the magic has happened when I've stepped outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's where all the magic has happened, right? And that, at least for me, I can just talk about myself, where I was really...
No, I think with every single person I've seen who's successful, every single person, there's not one person who's successful that I met. And exactly. I see success can be different. Like having a successful marriage. It's not because you get comfortable and live a mundane. I mean, you just said something a moment ago about your marriage, which is it's in its prime and moving towards something even juicier. I don't think you used the word juicy, but I picked up juice when you said that, because you're not comfortably, because I mean, the worst thing to kill any relationship is apathy. And apathy is very easy. If you're comfortable, that's what you do. Yeah, this is it. My lot in life, versus growing together, expanding together. So I think everything juicy is outside the comfort zone, right?
Yes, absolutely. So to anyone listening, what would make you feel like 2021 was like an epic year for you? Like what would need to happen in your existence for you to go that was a cool year? So let's imagine we weren't just floating and waiting for things to happen. Like, what's going to happen with Corona? What's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with that? Like, I don't know. I don't know. And it's true. That's an aspect of that that's absolutely true. But let's say you switched into creator mode and just say, look, I'd love to create this. I'd love to create this. I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but this is the result that I want to create. Right? And it needs to be something sexy that stretches you a little bit, because if it's, as you said, like, a little bit boring, you won't activate yourself. So I do believe in results. I'm not so much in goals. Goal setting, it's boring for me. It's like, what if I'm in my body?
We are so in alignment. Everything you talk about is like, is this me talking or is this her talking? I don't know. Every event I ever start, every event, doesn't matter whether it's online or in live. I mean, I do big events, 15,000 people. I always talk about the comfort zone first. It's like always start my starting point. Anyway, carry on. This is like...
That's amazing. How cool is that? So yeah, results. I'm into results. Like, I just want to and I love creating results. I actually love playing with what else can I do? I love asking that question. Okay, so we've done this. This is lovely, but what else can we do? Right? And I guess when you really know, because you've done the work to ask those challenging questions, does this really light up my soul? Am I scared to be alone? And so that's why I'm in this relationship. What do I really, really want out of life? And these are tough questions to answer, because, the ego mind wants to just shut down and say, look, everything's fine. You're healthy. You're okay. Why rock the boat? Right? So, and I definitely was in that mentality until, my 40th birthday, when I realized that I needed to rock the boat big time if I was going to, get to my 50th birthday telling a different story. Right? And the story I was telling at 40 was that I'd somehow managed to get myself into the pickle of being financially dependent on my husband. Because I had I'd gone down the spiritual path of, meditation and all of this. And I used to dance around saying things like, it's not about the money. It's about inner peace. It's about inner peace. Like, I don't care about money, it's about love. And, these type of things that you say without realizing that whatever you say is creating your reality, right? So when I found myself, 40 years old, I had been earning money with my personal growth work that I was doing, but nothing close to what I could, live in Switzerland with. Right? So therefore, that meant I was financially dependent on my husband. And I find that bond of, especially in these modern days, when there's the dependency that starts to come, it starts to corrode away at the fabric of the relationship, because why are we together now? Yeah, what is the real reason we're here? Are we here because I'm scared to, what would I do if I had to walk out of these doors? I don't have enough money. Am I here because I really, truly love this guy and this is what I want, right? So all of these awful feelings, and so I had to work on reawakening. So even though I went through, at 22 years old, my first, flash of waking up to the truth, and I've been working with this all of these years, there's points and times, and maybe some of you are experiencing a time like that right now, where you can't avoid anymore. You can't run away from asking yourself those questions, those questions that make you feel uncomfortable, the questions that make you feel scared, the questions that, but you're already feeling all of those things. Now it's just a question of owning, I don't have to be feeling this, I can transform this. But I first need to start with awareness, willingness to be honest with myself, willingness to be truthful to myself. So nothing changed in my life until I said, Mahima, I'm a little bit, I'm not happy with you. I'm not happy with the situation you've put yourself in. I'm not happy with the person you've become right now, and you need to do something to change. Yeah. So then I started going to, events. I started investing in listening to other people. I started investing in my transformation, because I knew I could no longer continue as I was, because I saw the pathway to my 50th birthday, which didn't look like the place I wanted to be, right? So you have the opportunity, anyone listening to this, right now, you can start asking yourself those questions, just have the courage. And then have someone support you, to be able to face the truth of those questions, and know that when you start planting seeds today, if you love apples, you need to put that seed in the earth today, right? So that it can start manifesting and growing into your
Germinating,
life.
yeah. You said something which I love, and I love I want to make sure everyone heard it. You said, what is a story I want to be telling on my 50th birthday? What a great way to think about the next decade. What is the
Hmm.
story that I want to be sharing? What is the conversation I'm going to be having 10 years from today? Because it really steered your ship. I mean, you'd
Yes.
gone down and you got to a place where, which I love actually, and I see that a lot with spiritual teachers. And I consider everyone who's probably in our profession is probably wounded healers, I call us, right? Right? But the idea that, yeah, so many people in the spiritual realm don't charge or value or charge for their time or their money. So they have this
Yes.
beautiful, like you say, don't worry about the money. But now you have both. You have that spiritual connection. You have a seven-figure business you were talking about. I want to go back just a little bit further for when, way before, because, growing up in apartheid, and for those of you that don't understand that, where, you talk about the really people of color having zero rights whatsoever. So it was a white-dominated. Anyone, again, if you don't understand it, you can read about it. It's horrific to think about. But we're just talking about a moment in history. It's not that long ago. I mean, when was apartheid? Nelson Mandela. How long ago was that? That's only 20 years.
It's not so, yeah, it's something in that direction in terms of
20.
the liberating, yeah,
Yeah.
but being deep in it. I was born in 71,
Right.
and in 81, there was the independence
Right.
from the apartheid for Zimbabwe,
Right.
right? So so yeah, it is so many people that are still alive with the wounds of what has happened there, right? And for those of you who don't know, as you said, to look into it, but it's really tough stuff, and those beliefs that are caused, in your system, that people carry, white people, black people, everyone. It's not just like, oh, the black people are, screwed up from this. It's the screw up is everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Because they're, even on the side of the white people, they've had sons and daughters that have been born into this and are confused. They're like, they've got maybe their parents are saying this, the world is saying that, so everyone is affected when we have these type of systems that don't create unity, love, and respect for people. So yes, it is.
When did you find, because growing up with apartheid, where, and like you said, I love the fact you use that distinction, because my South African friends, I mean, South Africa was another, I mean, Zimbabwe ended apartheid a long time before South Africa, right?
Yes,
But,
yes,
growing up there and being indoctrinated with
hmm,
that hatred of color.
yes,
But it's the
yes,
same as like what some you talked about a moment ago, how we can be indoctrinated financially. So many
yes,
people who are broke right now don't understand that the indoctrination, what they've seen, what they've heard, what they've experienced around money has created a blueprint for them. And so
exactly.
it's the same thing. So how did you start to realize growing up, as a woman in Africa, because
Hmm.
we could go there and we could talk about how women are seen or have been seen in African culture, because it's tribal. A lot of people think it's black and white, but actually, if you go there, you realize it's tribe and tribe. It's
Yeah,
shades of color, right? But
exactly.
when did you start to realize there was more? How did you find a path from Africa into now in Switzerland and talking so beautifully and eloquently? And now, yeah, it's been 10 years on the financial journey, but what was the journey to find your voice? When
Okay.
was, yeah, I want to hear about how you discovered your voice.
Okay, so I was 22 years old, and I had been married. So I'm on my second marriage, okay, and it's going well, okay. But my first marriage,
I'm going to say this for your husband. You're in your final marriage. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding. Carry on.
I always say you never know what's going to happen in life. And I tease this to my husband all the time. That's what keeps us fresh.
Yeah, of course.
Keep each other in reality, not fantasy land. Like for right now, we're doing great, right?
Yeah.
We've been through all kinds of ups and downs and dips and whatever. But right in the second, as I said, we're stronger than we've ever been, right? And actually, this year has brought us even closer together. It's been quite remarkable what COVID has brought to our relationship. So I'm 22 years old. I'm divorced from my first husband. I'm a mess. I didn't even know how messed up I was. Because I guess, first of all, divorce will do that to you, as from anyone who's gone through it. But secondly, I had no self-awareness, zero awareness. I was completely asleep. I was living in the victim mindset completely. My sadness and pain and anger was because of everything that had ever happened to me. And I wasn't responsible for my own happiness. And I didn't know that I was living like this, sort of pointing fingers to my mom, my grandmother, apartheid, my husband. Everybody was to blame for my miserable state. Again, I didn't even know how miserable I was. And then I landed up in India because of, like the serendipity of life. And I took a decision to go to India. And I found myself on a plane, landed there, and someone had given me this address to an ashram. I didn't even know what an ashram was. I didn't know what meditation was. I didn't know what a guru was. I had no concept of any of this. All they told me is, you need to go to this place because you're a hot mess right now. And I think this will help you. And I was a hot mess. So I just thought, well, yeah, I've got nothing to lose. So I found myself in the ashram in my first ever meditation. I had an awakening. I went into a deep state of inner peace and calm and stillness. I came there, I was full of my story. I was full of judgment. I was looking at all of these people thinking, what are these people doing? Where am I? Right? And all of that vanished. As soon as the teacher started speaking, I just started to feel like he was talking to me. And everything he said made sense. It was like he was speaking my language. And
but you're hearing it for the first time, which
exactly.
is interesting. You're like, it's so a part of your core, but
Exactly.
no one had ever said these words because you lived in a world where that didn't exist. What's fascinating though is you had to do what I find a lot of people have to do. You talk about the comfort zone, but you left the environment you were in and discovered your truth. Part of the discovery was getting out of the environment where it was so toxic, which I think so many people are living in, toxic families and their toxic friends and toxic jobs, not realizing that what they're feeling is just the environment. What their core voice is actually, once they have the courage to get outside that what's comfortable and discover, because that's really what you're talking about here, right?
100%. And I honestly believe with everything in my fiber of being that if I had not gone and stayed 18 months in India, my life would never be what it is today. So I stayed 18 months away from my whole family and all of their drama and all of this stuff. And I went through this transformation. And I loved meditating. For me, meditation was like, I felt like a dolphin that was stranded on the beach, barely alive. And then when I started to meditate, it was as if they'd pushed me back into the water. And it just came effortlessly. I could sit for hours in this place of self-exploration, self-healing. I just loved it. And so that was, let's say, how it started. So while others have challenges with meditation, it's hard for them to sit, it's hard for them. Like that was just natural for me. So that love affair with meditation is what got me hooked on, I need to know everything there is to know about this personal growth stuff. And so, yeah, that's how I started. That was the beginning of this journey. And so all these years on, I've created a training that allows people that were like me, have no idea about the depth of the victim mindset, to effortlessly and easily see more, be more, understand, and it starts with something as simple as breathe. Be here. Be willing to be here. You're here. You're not in tomorrow. You're not in the past, right? Now, where do you want to put your focus right now? Because this is your life, right? So that ability to just center yourself and give yourself permission to not be in the future, not be in the past, and just be here is the beginning of the liberation. Yes? And the world is constantly pulling us. Yeah, it's pulling us either that way or that way. And that's the tricky part. So, we have systems, strategies, techniques, our whole training to get you into presence. And once you're in presence, you start to see things in a new light, right? I saw that I could do anything I wanted to do because I was manifesting all of this stuff. Now, even the word manifestation, for some people listening, like, what is that? It means that your belief systems are creating an emotional state that is causing you to make actions, do certain decisions. Okay? So your belief systems are manifesting an emotional state that is affecting the actions and the decisions that you're making. So if you believe, I don't care about money, I don't care about money, I don't care, like, that's going to cause you to feel a certain way, and that's going to cause you to act a certain way. And I always say to people, if you don't care about money, money don't care about you, honey.
That's so
And
true.
that's not a place you want to be because, you need it for just about everything, that's happening, including a glass of water in most places. So you want to change your belief systems and then change your emotional state so that you can start making better
Well,
decisions.
and I think the other part of this, which I always say, is the inner world creates the outer world. So if you don't care about money, or you don't, then who you hang out with and everything you attract will make you right. It's like the universe is conspiring to make you right. I
Yeah,
mean, so if you're an angry person, it's like everyone's angry because you walk into the world angry. People
exactly.
feel you coming. So what do? They
Hmm.
close, or they become angry with you. So it's like, well, however and this is what I always talk about. We're so powerful, and most of us don't understand our power. And you can
Yes.
practice it. Walk outside, walk down the street, and just smile at people and watch what happens. Or go out and pretend to be closed and watch what. Just close down, look to the ground, and watch what people will close. And it's like people will mirror exactly what you're doing. So this is how powerful it is. But I want to share something with you, which I find really interesting. And you reminded me of this. When I left England, I left school at 15, left home at 15, but everyone I knew, we lived really by even Western standards, we lived in poverty. Now, not African standards, but by Western standards, we lived in poverty. So I lived in a condemned building. So it was
Oh,
like, and
wow.
we had vermin and we had people killed in there. It was like, it was
Mhm.
really by Western standards. In Africa, this a whole other level. I mean, but, um, and everyone I knew was doing drugs and getting drunk. So
Wow.
that's all I knew. That was the world I grew up in. So I was either getting stoned or drunk. That was it. That was the world I understood. And I was introduced to meditation, and I went and studied with a guru called Maharaji, and he taught this form of meditation. And when I started meditating, I started writing, and I started writing poetry. And it was when I started reading my own poetry that I decided to leave England and travel around the world, because I realized that there was something inside of me that was trying to get out. And as I read the words, it was like, I got to get out of here because there's more. I didn't know there was more until I started meditating. So it's so funny that you and I had a similar experience,
That's
and the
amazing.
meditation opened these doors. Wow, that's so
That is
similar.
amazing. We have so many similarities, David. We're gonna need to continue chatting,
We're
I think.
gonna we're gonna keep we're gonna build our friendship.
I would love that. I
Me
feel
too.
just, as you said, I just feel like we're just like two peas in a pod. You
Yeah,
know what I
exactly.
mean? Like, and our energies are very harmonized. It's very beautiful. I love it.
Well, thank you. And so I love this. So as you start to, in fact, I want to just share a little bit about your work, because I know that people, as they're listening to this, as they're resonating with you, how do they find you and how do they find your work? Because it would be great for them to follow this practice. How would they get hold of you?
Okay, so I have a gift for everyone. They can go to the Mahima mindset.com, and I'll spell that in a moment. But what you're going to get there is my international best-selling book. which is The Rebel's Guide to Inner Peace, which is going to teach you my 3 key steps to, being more peaceful in your everyday life. This presence practice, being here and now. And you're also going to get my 7 days Reprogram Your Mind, which is a very easy program to follow, where you're just going to be able to get a different way of seeing the world. So that's what's available for you at the Mahima, and I'll spell that Mihi. I always say it's mama with a high in it. Yeah. So the Mahima Mindset.com.
No,
And that's,
you said that, but I think you spelled it wrong. Isn't it
yeah.
Mahima?
Oh, sorry. Did I say something else?
You
It's
said
M-A.
You said M-I. Sorry. So
I'm sorry. It's
M-A-H.
M-A for Apple,
Yeah.
M-A, and then with a high, H-I-M-A. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah,
Yeah, M-A.
no. Yeah, so that's amazing, and I love the fact, um,
So
that
yeah, you asked
that
me a
the
little bit.
strategies are
Mhm.
simple. I love 3s and 4s. It's not like, hey, there's not this 100 things I want to do. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, there's this practice that you can do. Learn these 3 things, and you're going to start to experience the world differently and see the world differently. I love that. Cool.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, we take people on journeys. That's what I call them, right? Where we're an international, global tribe, and you meet people from all over the world, different, ethnicities, different backgrounds, and this is really what I'm all about. I'm all about how do we connect in our humanity. So even though, I'm Swiss, you're German, you're African, you're Zimbabwean, you're Chinese, I'm Japanese, you're Christian, I'm Muslim, I'm Jewish, I'm, Buddhist, I'm whatever. Like, how do we remove those labels so that we can create together human 2.0? Or even human 5.0 at this stage of the game. Let's go further. But how do we do that? How do we learn how to be together in a way that our labels don't define how we treat each other, right? So we all need to explore how our culture has taught us some limiting beliefs about how to treat people, how to be with people, what's right, what's wrong, all of these, concepts that we have flying around that make us very, either patriotic, like, I'm so proud to be German, I'm so proud to be Swiss, which is awesome, but why not be proud to be human and then find out what would that give us as a quality of connection when we started exploring that?
Yeah, it's interesting because, again, going back to the fact how similar we are, right? Having lived, well, now 110 countries, live, travel, and work, so,
Amazing.
but, and I love Africa. Africa calls to me. I've been to many, many, many countries in Africa. My last time I was there, we climbed I took a team up Kilimanjaro, and we were in Kenya and Tanzania, but there is something very, very beautiful about that, but it's hard to describe. But I was going to ask you a question, and I don't know why this keeps coming up in my mind, but it's just because I'm fascinated by your point of view. I don't watch the news at all, ever. So I don't know what's going on. I find that I experience the world through conversations and
David, I don't watch the news either, and I meet very few people that say that, and like say never. Like I just like me too.
I
It's
never
just
read a newspaper. I don't have any, so I don't have all of
me
that
neither.
stuff. That sheer stuff. But I wonder, like, with stuff that's gone on this last year and that seems to separate, and you think it just the language about the energy of it. With
Mhm.
this movement, I mean, we took two things happened in the last 2 or 3 years. The Me Too movement, which
Mhm.
happened through, and again, as people who have both experienced sexual abuse and can talk about it, and I have no energy in my body, absolute forgiveness, for myself, for the perpetrators, and I don't carry. I always say carrying dark energy, hatred or anger or all of the dark energies is like drinking poison and expecting the other
So
person to die,
true.
right?
So true.
But I wonder with that, but with also the Black Lives Matter, and I wonder as a woman of color, I don't know if that's how you describe it. You correct me if I'm wrong here, but I wonder what comes up for you as you're watching this, but seeing the division sometimes by the purpose of it. I love the idea, but how since that people seem to always want to take, instead of understanding and being on both sides and being flexible enough to hear and see and witness and hear and see and witness without one being wrong, because it's really about education. I always feel is, if someone can educate me, if I'm saying something, like I have Jewish friends, and one time I said something to one of my closest friends is Jewish, and I said something that really upset him. And I said, well, tell me why. What did I say? And he described it to me and told me why it upset him. I said, I just didn't know. I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I grew up in England, and this
Yeah.
is what people say. It's what I heard being said. It's a term about negotiating. There's a
Yeah.
term in England that's used that it's very derogatory to someone who's Jewish. But
Right.
once I understood, I was able to say, wow, thank you for that. And now if I hear other people do it, I say, can I share something? My good friend shared with me why this is really disturbing. And
Yes.
so, you get this idea, and I lived in Israel for a year, and I'm not Jewish, and
Yeah.
I lived in Africa, but anti-Semitic. So it's like, oh, you're either all in or all out. Black Lives Matter, but where's the education bridge? How do we help people understand what's really going on versus, coming from the opinion I already have and fighting for one side? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I don't think I articulated it well, but.
Look, I do understand what you're saying. And by the way, I had the same experience, similar experience with my Jewish friend, where around a similar topic. So that's, we're so similar. Okay. And since I don't watch the news, and since I don't know what's going on with the Black Lives Matter. I'm not like consuming myself with what these people are saying and what these people are saying, because I don't partake in it. Yeah. Right. So have I glimpsed into it just to not be like, living on planet Moon? Yes, but not to the extent where I can say really with all, truthful and honesty that I'm like now like a specialist in what Black Lives Matter means and, or and why these people are opposing it or whatever, like, because I really haven't, right? But okay, so coming from that point of view of where I just put like, so what's my feeling around
Yeah, what's your sense? Because that's for me too.
Okay,
what's
so
my sense, right?
Okay, my sense is that something wants to change, something wants to transform. And sometimes for transformation to happen, disruption needs to happen.
In fact,
So
every time,
it's
really transfer. That's
exactly
like,
like
right?
how did they get rid of apartheid? It wasn't because people, came peacefully together and said, let's stop this bullshit. This is insane, right? There was some uprise. There was some objection. There was some like, we can't do this anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, that has been the pattern of behavior that, there seems to be needing some kind of uprise for things to shift and change, even things that are horribly wrong. I mean, if you go even further back to the time when, there was slavery, and then to abolish that or get rid of that, it was a fight to the death. It wasn't just, oh yeah, let's get rid of this, let's wisen up, right? So that's what I see is happening. There's disruption. Yeah, and the Me Too movement and all these movements are all part of a shift into a new way of being, a new way of experiencing, and a new way of understanding. So it feels weird right now, and it's
well,
so.
The reason I brought it up, because you said something that I think could help for those people who don't understand disruption.
Yeah.
Like that's why I've loved COVID. COVID has been this wonderful time. I'm going to look back and say this has been, and so many levels. You talk about the connection to your husband. I have two boys. The connection to my eldest son has just transformed because of what's happening, and it's in the most beautiful, and it's like, I mean, it's so heartwarming, but in so many other areas. I mean, but the reason I wanted to bring this up for you particularly was helping people navigate disruption. I love the description for you. So what is something, regardless of what's happening, because I always say, look, if you can't handle it, if you're watching the news and walking away pissed off, stop watching the news, right? If you're surfing social media and someone's posting stuff and it's making you upset, stop reading their stuff. It's almost like people forget they have a choice. But what's based on your philosophies, your life journey, empowerment, and the idea that, the voice that we have can be fierce, but fierce with compassion, like Mother Teresa or Nelson Mandela, or people, we don't have to be just fierce. We can be fierce with love. And I think that what you're talking about is someone discovering their voice and purpose. Navigating disruption has to be something we can do elegantly and beautifully, and we can flow with, versus feeling like, oh my God, the world's good. Like, this is the darkest of times. And I'm thinking this is one of the most beautiful times in our history to be people are waking up, you know. So anyway, I
Yeah.
just wanted to get your thoughts and maybe some daily practices that people can have that will help them navigate this more beautifully.
Okay, so there's how I see it is, I call this the nature of reality. Okay, if you live here on planet Earth, there's good and there's some opposite thing to that. You can call it bad or whatever you want, right? There's happy, there's sad, there's cold, there's hot, there's dark, there's light. These two things need to exist. If there was just happy and there was no sad, you wouldn't know what happy is, right? If there was no light, that you wouldn't know what darkness is. So this is part of, I call it the fabric of life on planet Earth. Potentially, it's like that in the whole galaxy. I don't know, but we live here on this planet. So once we start understanding what's going on here, it's not about us. It's not about, when I say about us, like we live in this me place, which is, closes us off. If we start looking at the sort of what I call the we consciousness, how can we get together? What's my vibration doing to you? What's my thoughts doing to the world? Yeah, how am I contributing to either this, higher flow of frequency or this more kind of heavy, ugly place? So if you are looking to be, to making the world a better place, it's all about you up-leveling the game that you're playing and operating with more sincerity on doing the inner work so that you can make sure that whatever you do is coming, at least you trying to be the best version of yourself. Now, you're not always going to succeed. Like I can get pissed off and I can start screaming at somebody because, I just lost it, because I'm human, right? And but so we're not talking about trying to reach perfection, to be in this place where you never lose it, you're always cool. This is delusional. I believe that it is. I think you can get to to try to be the best version of yourself, but because of that humanness, you will cry sometimes, you will get super pissed off, you will have to deal with all of that stuff. So what we want to do is expand how we see ourselves. So I say to people, there is the ego mind and then there's the soul, right? And I want you to think of the ego mind as the I, the me, your story, right? And then there's the soul, your spirit, right? The part of you that's going to continue the journey, after this body is gone, you could say, right? The part of you that allows you to connect to all of the beauty, the love, the joy, the power, and all of that juicy stuff, right? So spend your time moving from ego mind to connected to soul spirit. I believe that's the only real work worth doing, quite frankly and honestly, right? How do I move out of this? And this means closing, judgment, pointing fingers, hating, blaming, accusing, yeah? And even if people are right, if you operate from that space, you're doing exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
So how do we be inspiring, instead of going into that place of I'm going to meet you in the ugliness, right? And that's the hardest part, right? To hack your system so that you can be more of an example of what you want to see in the world. So if you're saying, I want to see more love, I want to see more compassion, I want to see more respect, I want to see more, honoring, then be that. That's the only way we're going to get through this mess.
One of my yeah, I love it. One of my quotes that I've written is, everyone's waiting for somebody else to go first, right?
Yes.
And it's like to love first, to hug first, to invite first, to say, apologize first, to say hello first. So I feel that. I feel like if I want to live in the most beautiful of worlds, then my courage to go first. And it's remarkable how when I lead with love, love is everywhere. When I lead with compassion, compassion is everywhere, right? There's another thought I have is, we're at all times we're either affecting, which is what you do beautifully, or we're infecting. And if you want to affect the world, then it's just, we're talking about, you gave a beautiful example of the I to the soul, to the ego to the soul.
Yes,
And
yes,
how easy is that to start thinking about just this? And I think it's that, I'm going to start using this as a movement in my hands.
yes,
It's like, yeah, where do I want to be at? But do I want to
exactly.
affect or do I want to infect?
I
Right.
love that.
So I
I
just want
love
to give you a
that.
last thought, last question, and then I'm going to hand it over to you just to say anything else. But I want to think about the woman or the man right now
Mhm.
who's listening, who's most locked in. Maybe they feel invisible, or they feel like their voice is eroded. Maybe for their journey, and you and I understand this. There are people right now that even if they were sitting in front of us, they probably would not put their hand up. They probably won't speak, and probably. So, what's your thought? What's your just your words to them right now? If you're starting in the darkest of places today, maybe they've gone through some a past that they're carrying on their back like a weight, and it's sort of holding them down, or they're beating themselves up in their mind. I just wonder if you want to just have a chat to the person that maybe is most locked in, because to looking at you with your inner grace and your confidence and your wisdom and all these things, and I know that happens to me sometimes, is just remember what I was like when I was angry and when I was stealing and lying and cheating all the time, and I was, I was fighting the world
I
versus
can't even
flow.
imagine that version of you, David, but
Oh,
thank you for sharing.
yeah, I
Remarkable.
was fighting the world instead of flowing with it. I didn't flow with anything.
Mm.
I was just, everything was resistant. Everything
Yes,
was painful. And I
yes.
just wonder again, if you could just have a chat with those people who feel like that, of where, they're just starting this, they're just awakening. Like when you were 22 and you went to India,
Mhm,
when that
mhm.
first person spoke, that guru in front of you, and it felt like it spoke to your soul. I just want you to give you a second to have that moment with someone who maybe is feeling the same as you did at 22.
Ooh, juicy. Okay, so I want to invite you to take a breath with me. Just breathe with me. Yeah, breathe in through your nose, exhale through your mouth. You can put your left hand on your chest and your right hand on your lower belly like this. Yes? And just take a moment to close your eyes. Just take a moment to close your eyes and breathe. Everything you're looking for is already inside of you. You were born as pure love. Think of any baby that you know. Pure, unconditional love. That is your true nature. That is who you are in the core. You are love. Breathe. Breathe and allow yourself to know this. And self-love starts with you giving yourself permission to understand on the most deepest level who you are. You're not your thoughts. You're not your feelings. You're not your body. You're not your story. You're the soul on a journey. And even this body is a temporary home. Just breathe and see if you can even grasp that just for a second, the profundity of that. This body is your temporary home on this planet. And you can start by looking in the mirror every day from today and just saying to yourself, I love you. I see you. I feel you. I'm here for you. I love you. I see you. I feel you. I hear you. I'm here for you. And look into your own eyes. And even if you don't believe it, just do this every day. After you've brushed your teeth, give yourself that moment to say those words to yourself. And I promise you, if you can do this diligently, even just for a week, you will start to feel different. Everything is already inside of you. Just give yourself permission to start with the foundation, which is self-love and self-respect. Come back. You want to give love. You want to give others. Give to yourself. Pour into you. And I promise you, you will start to feel and see the shift.
I feel like
So
I just had a
you.
warm bubble bath. Mahima, thank you so much. I will do this again. If you ever want me to come on one of your shows, I'd be happy
I
to.
would
But
love
I
that.
would love to have you come back and we'll continue our conversations. I send my love to Switzerland to you, and your beautiful family, and thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you, David. Thank you for allowing me to just do what I love doing, and which is serving and having fun while I'm doing it. And I get to meet. I know we're going to be friends, David. This is like, we're coming like together in such a powerful way. So that's the added gift of today, is meeting you and knowing you.
Well,
I
thank you.
honor what you're doing, and I just love, love, love your vibration and everything you're about. Thanks for letting me be a part of it.
Thank you. And everyone
Thank you.
listening, yeah, thank you, Mahima. Everyone listening, remember, it's my extra mile. It's those tiny incremental steps, that 1% of difference you can add to your life. We just have a beautiful practice. You have a beautiful website to go and visit, and there's some gifts there for you. But just to remember that daily practice, starting there and falling back in love with ourselves. So thank you so much. And we'll definitely see you on the other side.